All right. Hey, everyone. This is Yonks TV with Disney Arena Pro, and my fellow Dillons and Company is our club. And we're getting ready to go through the Club Conquest preparation and planning phase. All right. So let's go ahead and go into. So this week, Dillons and Co. is the red team. So one of the things that came to a realization during last week's Club Conquest is if we have a really strong team, that team can potentially single-handedly defend a pace. So one of the things to keep in mind here from a scoring standpoint, we've got these three bases that are closest to our headquarters: A1, A2, and A3. So the importance of these particular bases is that they give us 1 point each for while we hold that base. And Club Conquest is all about a score, increase our score, decrease the opponent's scoring ability. So from a strategy standpoint, like when we're attacking, if we can get the bases and hold the bases closest to their HQ, that will really gut their ability to score. So keeping that in mind when we're setting the defenses for our own base, and the way that Glue has this for Disney Sorcerer's Arena, only co-leaders or the club leader can actually set the bases or the defenses. Well, that's not completely true. And those of you that went in and played around, you probably saw the ability where you can set your own team's defenses. So I'm glad that you all didn't do that, make it a little bit easier here for this particular phase. So one of the other things to keep in mind, Simba actually has a ability that's more geared towards this particular game dynamic. So when we go in here to this first base, A1, we've got the assign button. So we've got the top three tiers or teams, and it's going down by deck power. So let's go ahead and use Ace 23 Vin, our very own club leader here. We'll put him on this first base. So what we're going to do, going back to the main screen here, is we're going to put our three strongest teams, one in each base. So we got the one in A1, and let's go ahead and go into, that was A3, A2, and let's go ahead. I don't know if we have Simba. So Iwa 94 has a pretty decently strong Simba team here. I'm not sure if that'll make up the difference for the deck power. So let's just go ahead and pop in the two strongest teams and go over to A3 and put the other one in. Okay, so we have our three most strategic bases defending with each of our highest clubs teams. So going over here and looking at the map, we've got the C team green and the blue team B. And there's only one base that is co-connected, which is A10. You can see the line connecting to B10 and to C10. And that's the next base that we want to most strategically hold, and it'll probably be potentially the base that's most contested between green and blue attacking us. So let's go ahead and assign some teams here. Let's go ahead and use this Simba team right here. And let's go ahead and put in our second top team. And that's good for right now. We'll come back to that guy later. So I'm going to kind of try to keep an eye on the time here. I mentioned that this is just a trial Zoom. If we really like using this feature as a club, and there's a high degree of probability that I'll bump it up, but we'll see. All right. So we would want a really strong, and let's go ahead and follow that same line, that this, in order for these bases over here on the side, somebody would have to come in and flank us, which is a possibility. But let's go ahead and go to A5. We'll focus on our defenses for A5 and A6 next. So we'll go assign this to the next highest team here, A5. Go over here to A6, assign the next highest team. Done. All right. And let's go ahead and work on the next two highest teams in A4. And we're going to go ahead and skip this one because this doesn't have two spells. So keep that in mind. We really want two spells because you wouldn't want to go into battle with a team that's one spell. So if you've got an idea of spreading your, and I don't want to call out anybody specifically because this has happened in other cases too. So don't spread around when you're setting the defenses, and that's probably something we could have done from a leadership standpoint. We want the strongest team possible, like you were going into PvP with that team. And then when that strongest team, make your second strongest team. And then we'll decide how we set the defenses, and we'll talk more about that here throughout. Probably if you guys like doing this live stream, we'll probably do some during the attack phase tomorrow. All right. So put our strongest, this one, and this one over here. So right now it's just basically going down the list. Hey, there's my team. And follow that same line of thought here. We want A9 and A11. Those are the next highest probability places of being targeted. So let's put our next two strongest teams, the first one here in A9. So let's go ahead, go here. The next one, A11. And boom. All right, and following that same line of thought, we've only got two bases that don't have any teams in it. So let's go ahead and assign. All right, so now we have at least one team in every base. So what we're going to go ahead and do now, remember how I talked about A10 is a stronghold on our forward opposition that we want to try to put our strongest teams in. So what we're going to do now is they're going to put our next three strongest teams in. And part of the reason for this is that when we successfully defend an attack, we score 5 points for defending that. So the more that we have a strong team in there, oh look, all right. Okay, so on the forward opposition, we've got the 5 strongest teams that we had. So let's go ahead and the closest one here, let's go ahead and put our next strongest. All right, so with where we're at, I think it'd make more sense to stop putting our strongest teams. And the reason for that is that we want to save some of our power for when we take over a base. So let's stop going to the top of the list. And what we're going to do now is we're going to fill in the 3 most strategic bases here closest with some of our weak teams. So you can see here that we've got a lot of, bless you, by the way.
Thank you, sorry.
So we'll keep it at 1,000. Let's just go to the teams with the deck power of 1,000. So sign. Because one of the problems, the reason that we're holding off on putting some of these stronger teams in, we really ran out of defenses last week when we were out conquering. It ended up being a really solid strategy, but we definitely were lacking on some of the defenses as we were conquering. And this isn't a set in stone. Keep in mind, this is only the second week that we've done Conquest, and the first week, last week, was pretty crazy. Now, one of the things on defenses is that right now, as we're a leveling club, we have the capability of, as a club member, having 50 characters that we can use for defense, which is 10 teams. 10, I guess. And I don't know about you, but my roster only has 22. So as we get more towards in-game, this dynamic will change probably pretty substantially. So this strategy, as far as how it's setting defenses and stuff, is going to be a work in progress. And we'll have a different perspective here after we go through another one. And right now I'm just sticking to assigning teams with their 2 spells. Let's see how we're doing on time. And while I'm doing this, one of the goals of this is to get everybody in the club more confident with this dynamic, because I'm personally not going to want to spend as much time as I have here this last week or going forward managing this aspect of the club. And not only that, but just give everybody the opportunity to participate in the dynamic. And that's something that we'll have more conversation with for those that want to raise their hand and say, hey, I would like to set the defenses this week, or whatever the case may be. So that's part of the goal that we're hoping to do with these live streams, and kind of opening up everything to the club here. Okay. And the offense, from the way that I understand this, they won't be able to see the teams that we've had assigned here until the actual attack phase begins. So whenever somebody, like our opponents or ourselves, whenever the Club Conquest launches tomorrow morning, which is 8 a.m. Pacific time. So right now the plan is to set another live stream where we can do the attack phase. For those that will be up in the morning, and those that aren't, no biggie, we'll have multiple attack phases throughout the Conquest tomorrow. And the thought process on using these, you know, B or potentially C tier teams here, again, is to have, because we in these 3 core bases, we use our single strongest team. So in order for our opponents to take over that base, they have to kill everybody. And one of the thoughts here is that a lot of the times people aren't going to think when they're attacking as far as saving their offense for a particularly stronger team. So whenever we're going through the attack phase tomorrow, you only get to use your offense once. Once you use that character in offense, they're done. Same with spells. So that being said, you don't want to use a deck power of 2,000 to kill a opponent that has a deck power of 1,200. All right, so our core bases, and remember, the reason that are important, we get 1 point per minute for each of those bases that we have secured. And I don't know if you all remember from the Club Conquest last week, we were actually over here in the blue, and we were able to come over here to red, and then we held them, and it totally gutted their ability to score any points. All right. So what we're going to do now here, and these bases are very important also. That's our middle perimeter. So let's go ahead and go here to what is that, A5? And we'll put our next strongest team in there. Go over here to A6, next strongest team there. And same thing, next strongest. Next strongest. All right. And let's go ahead and go next strongest up here. And this is which one? A9? Yeah, happy birthday, Italian boy. And next strongest here on our exterior perimeter. And we'll go back here to A5 and put our next strongest in A6. And next strongest on A4. Go back up here to A9. And I think right now we're just going to start filling in the slots, going from where we have, using that same philosophy, above that 1,000 deck power mark. And again, that's going to be kind of a evolving kind of line in the sand, or strategy, whatever you want to call it. Right. And let's do A9. $25 after. A11. See, we're still going to have a lot of good teams left to assign as we're conquering during the attack phase tomorrow. Okay. And I think we're good. Let's go ahead and start putting in some of those teams that have one spell. in the remaining sockets or slots in that plus 1000 deck range. And I'm not even going to worry about bouncing and going back to the main map. There's actually some arrows at the top that you can use to navigate this to make it a little bit easier. There we are. See right here. I'm just going to fill in. And last week, we completely ran out of defense. So that's why we're using a little bit more of a rationing approach. And again, that'll change as we get more and more characters. Like right now, personally, at level 35, I've got 22 characters, and some of those are level 1. So imagine having 50 characters. So things will look substantially different even next week as far as defenses go, as we continue to increase our own collection. Staring over to the next base and filling in the holes until we've got all of our defenses occupado.
Did you already go over a strategy of attack, Yonks?
No, that's something I was hoping to have a little bit of discussion about. And definitely the plan right now is to have a live stream. I'll post the details when I get the new meeting tomorrow created. And I haven't talked to Italian Boy, and I'll let him decide if he wants to do one for Club 2 tomorrow, but definitely doing for one, because the attack phase will be more of an ongoing strategy, especially as the day goes on, we get attacked, the other teams attack. Right. And this, I'm probably spending more time than I really need to, but since doing the video. And again, right here, what I'm doing is just getting the decks that have 1,000 power or more, and it's just a number that we chose, or I chose. And again, our strategy might be very different next week when we have a better understanding for what one more cycle of Club Conquest looks. So I'm just going to arrow through and see if we're 5 of 5 here on all of our bases. We've got 12 bases. So one thing, too, that's very strategic from a scoring standpoint, you can see here red, green, and blue, the little tower, the number with 12 up in the score box. Whenever somebody reaches 13 bases, they accumulate plus 10 points a minute. So from a offense or attacking standpoint, the sooner, if somebody has more than 13 bases, that you can reduce that will substantially mitigate their scoring ability. So does anybody have any questions? Like, we've got our defenses before we talk more about potential attack strategy tomorrow. Does anybody have any questions on the defenses?
Which defenses do we see falling first?
That just depends on the attack strategy that the other team is executing on.
Based on what we've set, like which ones seem easiest of a path for them to go?
I don't know. I think we did it pretty balanced, I thought. I don't know. And then, like, one of the things that happened last week was we had red and we were blue, and green didn't really show up that much, but we both red and blue attacked very heavily on green. And one of the things that was a mistake from red standpoint is they fortified too much in green. And then when green came back, because most of their offense didn't show up early, which is why that it's, for those that can, 9 a.m. Pacific is when we're going to launch the attack phase, because the sooner that we can get in a scoring power, this is done on points per minute. And game over, first team, 45,000 points. So I'm not going to make any predictions about how the attack is going to unfold tomorrow. Does anybody have? So one of the things when we're grouping up tomorrow for the attack phase, and I'm pretty sure we will not be able to see the defenses, but that's one of the things that we'll kind of want to do a preliminary before we just all, and if everybody could hold off on attacking till we actually formulate an attack strategy. And we'll be doing a kind of the idea is to have a shot caller in our individual club Conquest channel so that we can have a very directed attack. And again, remember, whenever you're trying to attack somebody in a base, when we say go on that particular base from a strategic standpoint, is you don't want to bring a 2,000 team to a team that you're fighting that only has a deck power. And one of the things that I would actually like to have a better understanding just from a strategic standpoint is kind of see, because I know that there's some number, because this isn't really a PvP dynamic. This is, we've got our teams, but it's still a more of a PvE where the game is using the normal AI logic, just like in Sorcerer's tournament. So there's got to be some approximate number as far as, you know, like say you've got a deck power of 1,500 with a good team comm, you can maybe take out a team of 1,600 or 1,650 deck power. So having that information, like when we're kind of talking about things in Club Conquest, would be pretty beneficial so that we can be more resourceful as far as our offenses. Just looking at the time here, and I think this Zoom is going to cut off in a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions real quick?
One thing I was going to add is based on last time's Conquest, this is Toby, by the way, I noticed that you were saying about red fortifying too much up in the greens area. That's one of the biggest things that we need to watch out for with our attacking as well, is, as you said, about not using too powerful of a team for weaker teams.
Right.
We want to make sure that if they do set some heavier defenses later, that we still have the teams to take those down later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I was thinking to help conserve our teams while still maximizing points, if we can defend our 12 and then just take one or two of the edges, we'll still have 13, so get the plus 10 bonus, but can then just chill and let the others fight it out maybe before moving forward. Because really, whoever gets the 10 bonus and only one of us has that 13 bases or more, that team will win.
Yeah, is it numerically possible for just one team to? And I highly doubt that that'll unfold that way. And the other thing too is gutting their ability to score. So, and a lot of that from a strategic standpoint will be just more how it unfolds. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This was great. If got any questions, like get some brilliant ideas while you're dreaming about summoning your sorcerers overnight, bring it to the table tomorrow, because this is a ongoing strategery. All right, thanks everybody. We'll catch up with you next time.